I just want to share a few remarks with you that soon we will celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Center for Responsible Business. And the CRB has a long legacy here at Haas with a proven record to drive deep and sustained impact. Now, we cover a lot of ground at the CRB, running classes, writing cases, holding competitions, supporting research, seeding conversations in the many domains associated with responsible business. Now, we've come to realize that to drive truly deep and sustained impact, we have to focus. And the time is now, we feel, to focus on sustainable food. Now, this has all happened organically. And maybe it's not surprising as to why. Of course, we're here in this great state of California, which is a mecca for food. This great University of California, Berkeley, with our world-class faculty and resources focusing on food that very much include our good friends and colleagues with the Berkeley Food Institute. And here we are with our incredible Berkeley Haas students. And our students bring their bright minds and their caring hearts and deep passion for food to the food companies that they launch, as well as the food companies that they join. We have such a rich legacy of amazing food companies that we started or were run by Berkeley Haas alum. You've heard about a number of them. I started trying to build a list, back to the roots, Annie's, Revolution Foods, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. There's something here. And all of this happened organically. This was not the result of any particular design. Now imagine what if we got really focused on food. And imagine what we could achieve if we directed our energies and resources to building an institutional hub here at Haas to support our students, to engage our faculty, to excite our alum and food-minded friends. Imagine Berkeley Haas ushering a new era of food through which we leverage the power of business to radically transform our food systems to solve our greatest collective challenges: health, food scarcity, environmental degradation, climate change. And just imagine Berkeley Haas assuming its rightful place as the leading business school in the world to do this. So together, this is what we intend to do with the Sustainable Food Initiative.
One of the things a gardener really values is continuity. And I have to say, I feel so privileged to be watching the sprouting of yet another really amazing initiative here at Berkeley Haas. I got called to this campus in 1998 by a group of students who were really interested in this idea of corporate responsibility and mission-driven businesses. I had kind of accidentally written a book about how an idea becomes a mission-driven business, and the book became kind of a template, a little bit of a case for how you do that. And the students really gobbled it up, and the students went to the dean and they said, we want to learn more about this, we want a class in this. And then they asked me to teach the class, and then lo and behold, the students said, we don't want just a class, we want a whole focus area. And that's what became the Center for Responsible Business almost 15 years ago. So now I have really the perspective to recognize, I guess entrepreneurs would call this pattern recognition, but we've got this same energy of initiative and generation to start a new initiative called the Sustainable Food Initiative, and it's really all coming from the students' voracious appetite, if you will, to study, learn, lead, most importantly, lead in a way that is going to transform really the largest industries, businesses, and cultural institutions on the planet. And the thing that I love about working in food is that it really connects us all to something very personal and meaningful. It takes concepts like health or sustainability and makes them personal. It moves them from our, somebody else's backyard, like right into our body. So I feel like there's a really powerful kind of almost transformative, metamorphic opportunity for learning, growth, change, transformation. It's a place of great optimism, hope, and again, as a gardener, all we can do is hope and work with what we're given. So we bring a lot of humility to this program. We bring a lot of energy and great resources, too. I should probably just mention that we have a couple of classes already. We have a graduate course called Food Innovation Studio, where primarily MBA students and their colleagues come together to create new ventures, businesses, enterprises, products, solutions. That's the class that helped nurture along Revolution Foods about 11 years ago, and Bite Foods, I think Megan can talk about that, and World of Good, and lots of other, even Indiegogo came out of that class, but it's great. And then we've got this undergraduate class that Michael really began 7 or 8 years ago with Alice Waters, called Edible Education, which really speaks to almost 150 students from across campus once a week to learn about all aspects of the food system and how to really play a role in evolving it to a healthier, more just and sustainable proposition.
I'll tell you a little bit about my journey to Haas and then what I've been doing since Haas. And I have a prop, which I'm going to explain a little bit later. So I believe, just building on what Will said, food is what connects us, right? It's what connects us to each other. It's what connects us to the earth. And I believe that the food industry is really what's going to either destroy our planet or save our planet. I really got into food through sustainability, through the environment. So I grew up in Colorado. I'm actually unintentionally wearing my Colorado biking socks. But I always mention that because my upbringing was really in the outdoors, in the mountains, and that's very much a part of who I am. My first job after college, fittingly, was at the National Park Service in DC at NPS headquarters. And from there, when I was there, I started something called Let's Move Outside, which was the outdoors component of First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move program to end childhood obesity. So I started this little thing called Let's Move Outside, and then ultimately went to work for her on sort of broader Let's Move in the White House. And it was in that role that I really realized that food, actually, not as much as sports or physical activity, was what really married my interest in the environment and then in health, and kids' health specifically. So I came here to Haas with the intention of really building the skills I would need to have an impact in that space. So how could I marry sort of kids and health and environmental sustainability? And Haas was the best possible place I could choose to get my MBA. Having a background in government and my undergrad was in politics, I did not know anything about business coming here. So I survived the core classes, which were really rigorous, as some of you can empathize with, I hope. But really through all of the electives, including Edible Ed when Michael was teaching it, and Will's classes, really deepened my knowledge of the food industry through a lot of projects and frankly, a lot of networking, and just building relationships with really passionate, knowledgeable people. And I think only at Haas could I have had such, a deep and interdisciplinary experience. When I was at Haas, I met a guy named John Foraker, who was then at Annie's, and I met him, and it was just one of those moments where immediately I said, I have to go work for this man. He is, if any of you know him, he is one of the most bold and kind and visionary leaders in the food industry and I think in any industry. So I was very deliberate about getting a job at Annie's, and I did end up at Annie's, thankfully, shortly after it was acquired by General Mills. And it's been a terrific learning experience all around. I want to talk just briefly about what we're doing now, which is why I have this prop. This little box of mac and cheese represents a direction we're taking at Annie's, which we're really very proud of. So regenerative agriculture is this idea that we're not going to be satisfied with just sustaining or maintaining the status quo. We actually need to fundamentally change our food system to leave the planet better than we found it, right? To not just avoid harm, but to do more good. And we do that by focusing on building soil health, by empowering farming communities, and by increasing biodiversity. And there's a set of practices and outcomes that we at Annie's and at broader General Mills are advancing to really lead this transformation. And that starts for us with this small group of organic regenerative farmers in the northern plains of Montana who grew the primary crops for this mac and cheese. So this is just a limited edition, but for us, it's like you can actually see the farmer's name on the front of pack, and it's a little bit like having a farmer's market experience in the center of the store, which no one else is doing. So it's a small first step, but we're really excited about this promise of regenerative agriculture to both include but also go beyond certified organic and lead to better outcomes for people and planet. So we're really excited. I'm grateful for my experience here and just so excited that this center is emerging in what's really a critical time for the food industry.
So I'm George Roche. I was an MBA of 2016. And so today I'd like to talk kind of about opportunity. When thinking about Berkeley and the food space, opportunity is what came to my mind first. Some of it's already been realized, yet even more of it has to come. So when I was choosing a business school, I knew that I wanted a place that was kind of this intersection of food, science, and technology. And despite growing up on Long Island, when I was visiting California for the first time, and specifically Berkeley for the first time, it really felt like home. You know, listening to jazz over a pie of cheese board pizza, you know, going to Monterey Market for some fresh produce, or even sitting in a class about responsible business. I knew this was a place for me. It's right at that, you know, steeped in history in the food industry, related to blazing a new path for farm to table, or kind of reviving this artisanal bread movement, and of course being perfectly situated between Silicon Valley and some of the most fertile farmland in the world. So it was clear this was a place that I needed to come, right? And I'm grateful that while I was here, I had the opportunity to be the co-president of Food at Haas, work with Will to stand up Food Venture Lab, which is still running, to receive the Larson Scholarship for Entrepreneurship, to lead teams through Eat, Think, Design and be interdisciplinary. And of course, you know, through Food Venture Labs and Will, get introduced what has felt like my calling, which is the microbiome. And Haas really provides us the raw materials to mold whatever future you want. You have the opportunity to become this better version of yourself. Yet at Haas, we go beyond ourselves. As a UC, we're a bit of you know, hungrier, we're scrappier, we're a get shit done kind of people. And with the right resources, Haas can continue to be the leader shaping the food industry, to allow his students to do something more. And so it's been remarkable to see what Will and Michael have already worked on, and I'm, for one, am excited to see what else is in the future. So with that, you know, go Bears.
Hi, I'm Annie Kimberly. I'm a second-year full-time MBA student here at Haas, graduating in a month. And I had no idea I wanted to go into food when I got here. I chose Berkeley because of the community and the reputation they had as creating the Berkeley leader and building a community of business leaders who wanted to do something better for the world and build a better world. And I didn't know exactly what that meant for me. But when I came on campus and I was introducing myself to the hundreds of amazing classmates around me, I introduced myself as the vegetarian who worked on the meat team. Because I had been at Target before school and I'd spent a year working on the meat team, and I'd been a vegetarian at that point for 5 years. So it was a very easy intro and something a little different from the "where are you from" that you do at the beginning of school. But it was through conversations about that I really realized just how passionate I was about the food space and how much I wanted to kind of lean into that and look into it more. And over the past 2 years, I've found an incredible community here of people that are interested in building a better food system, and so many resources to learn how to do that, whether it's Will's Food Venture Lab class or resources through Food at Haas, the amazing networking opportunities. I got to spend my summer working at Impossible Foods and continuing to work on meat, but this time as a vegetarian where I could eat the meat product. And it's been shaping what I want to do with my career, and I did ultimately decide after graduation to go back to a big corporation and go to Kraft Heinz, which a lot of people kind of question because that's not a big sustainability focused company. It's really on the flip side, but I think that at any company you're at, you can make a really big difference when it comes to sustainability, and I want to be that vegetarian on the meat team at Kraft and help make a really big difference there in some of their sustainability initiatives. So I am so thankful for my experience and my classmates, whether they're going to small companies or big companies. I'm really excited for all of us to hold each other accountable to making a difference in the food system.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian Rodriguez. I'm also a second-year MBA graduating in May. Before Haas, I spent 6 years in finance, helping generationally wealthy families figure out how to invest their money. And I think we often came to this conclusion where a lot of our clients wanted to do what was right in the long term, but there weren't actually any investable vehicles that would align their long-term money needs as well as their values. And I thought there was kind of this dichotomy between people who wanted to be investors and people who wanted to get their hands dirty and actually grapple with problems. So, I chose to come to Haas because after reading Michael's books, Dan Barber's books, you see the huge need for businesses to have more longer-term time horizons. So that's kind of why I thought to apply to business school. And I was really set on going to either Kellogg and doing their MMM program, a dual degree in design, as well as an MBA, or coming to Haas. And I called up a friend, and they're like, "You got to talk to George Roche." And I think that's kind of very indicative of my journey at Haas, is that you just meet these characters, and they just put you, and they kind of send you down a path. And you don't know where the path is going, but every time you go a little bit deeper in the rabbit hole, you just realize that it's exhilarating and you're just really enjoying it. So I listened to you, George. I'm so glad I did, because when I got to Berkeley, it was the first time in my life where I had an ecosystem where you could actually go blank slate and think about how to structure something. And as someone who worked in finance, I felt a lot of my time was always like, Adrian, do this, but make sure you make the most amount of money in the shortest time possible. And when you have that constraint on an idea, it really limits what your outcome is. So to come here and to have a professor like Will, who's been doing business in more triple bottom line way, and to get to kind of see what that looks over an arc of a career was really helpful in just reorienting just the way I did the smallest things in my interaction. So I also found a great home at the CRB with Robert, and really glad that I walked into your coffee chat in like the first 3 weeks and said, I want to focus on fixing our food system, and I think we need more circular design in it. And you're like, you gotta participate in the Patagonia case competition. It's about how do we think about regenerative agriculture. And that was kind of a seminal case that the CRB wrote, Will wrote, about how to redesign agriculture. So I worked for Patagonia this summer and their venture capital fund, helped them write a standard for regenerative agriculture that thinks about soil health, sentient animal welfare, and the fairness in the supply chain. And really just thinking about blank slate, what's the right way to do this? Even if we can't hit it, what's the right way to orient us? And then spent the other half of the summer thinking about the best investment funds out there currently doing this, and thinking about how do you invest consciously in that. So as I lead up to graduation, just working on a couple side projects, helping Will come up with the farmer entrepreneurship program with Stone Barns out of New York, and also kind of helping him put together some of the teams for his new class, Food Innovation Studio.
My name is Nellie Booman, and I'm a first-year full-time MBA student here at Haas. A funny story about me, I only applied to Haas, which was kind of a ballsy move. I'd been working for nearly a decade, and it's a little bit unusual to go to a full-time program at that point in my career. I was working with Allie Kelly at Annie's, doing two things. Number one, I was leading digital marketing for Annie's, and telling the story of how Annie's is advancing sustainability in their supply chain. But then I was also running the School Garden Grant Program, the Sustainable Ag Program, and then the General Mills Hometown Grant Program as well. And so I was really passionate about how companies can do well by doing good. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to come to Haas, is I really wanted to advance myself in that regard. Here's a little bit of a personal story. I come from a long line of fruit farmers, and actually worked in the seed industry for a while before coming to Haas. And that's where I really learned where food comes from and how consumers can really start to care about how food is grown, cultivated, packaged, produced, et cetera. And so for me, Haas was really the standout option, especially as it pertained to responsible business. So the first thing that I did when I came on campus is ask people, what group should I be a part of? Who should I be talking to? How can I get involved with sustainable food here at Haas? And so I joined the Student Advisory Board for the Center for Responsible Business, started talking to Will. Will wanted to do some marketing work for his edible ed class, so I became a grader for the class along with Rohini Banscotta, who's in the back of her room. She's a Goldman student. Here at Berkeley, and then also got involved with Food at Haas. So I'm on the leadership team there, and I'm just working to advance sustainable food as an initiative throughout the campus as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julianne Fader, and I'm also a first year, sadly almost second year, full-time student at Haas. And I'm from New York City, and I remember when I was looking at business schools, my friend told me, you really should take a deep look at Berkeley. She knew I come from 7 years in the food industry. I've done everything from working on a sustainable agriturismo in Italy and cooking professionally, and I went to culinary school, so this is my second degree, not a brag. And she knew my passion for food, and I took a look, and I knew of Alice Waters, and I started doing some research, and I saw edible education and edible schoolyard, and this was really the birthplace for where all these movements have come. And so I knew this is where I had to be. And then, of course, as the world works out, I now am the TA for one of the other TAs for edible education, and I've had the opportunity to have so many incredible experiences. I also was invited, for example, to dinner with Dan Barber and Michael Pollan because of that, and I think I can die now. So. Just so many doors have been opened because of this experience. And I will be joining, I feel like there's a General Mills theme. I will be there this summer. But the ability to really take my MBA, and I come from really small companies, and make a larger impact and really help shape the way that people eat, and hopefully just make the world a better place through food. And I think that's indeed what food has the power to do, because it's not just the earth around us, it's what's inside us.